If you've had enough of the technical stuff, let's talk about some more practical things. Primarily, that involves what we can do as it relates to multiple worksheets within a single Excel file. For a very long time, the default number of worksheets in a new workbook was 3. That number could always be changed, but many people, I should say most people, didn't change it. And I have to tell you that one of my pet peeves is receiving Excel files with the standard 3 worksheets, even though only the very first worksheet is being used. We need to not be lazy, and we need to take out extraneous worksheets. It just makes things more professional, more polished, and a little bit more efficient. But anyway, since our focus is working with multiple worksheets, it makes sense that we review how to insert, move, copy, and yes, also how to delete worksheets from a workbook. In addition, we want to make sure that our Excel files are intuitive and easy to use. And this means we also want to review how to rename and color code worksheets as well. We can add additional worksheets to a file the kind of old-fashioned way by moving down to the bottom and going to the tab strip, right-clicking on a worksheet tab, and choosing Insert. The problem with this is we see that there is an ellipsis, the little 3 dots after the word Insert. That means it's going to bring up a window, and in that window, we have to make a choice. To me, this is just too many clicks, so I tend not to use that option. Another option would be to simply stay at the Home tab. And if we move all the way over to the right-hand side of the Home tab, there is a group called Cells. From the Cells group, there's an Insert option, and in the Insert option, you can choose to insert a sheet. Again, though, this is way too many clicks, and I like to do things the easy way. So what is the easy way? Well, the way that I would do it is to simply come down and use one of the newer features that have been introduced as part of the new interface. And that is the Add Sheet button that's at the far right-hand side of the tab strip. By simply clicking the little plus sign, it will insert a worksheet after the currently selected sheet. So it does help to have the worksheet selected after which you want to include the sheet, but if you didn't do that, that's okay. It's very easy to rearrange worksheets. The easiest way, and again the traditional way, is to simply press and hold the left mouse button and drag the worksheet where you want it to go. What you're actually looking for is this little down triangle that's showing you where it will be placed. So we can move sheet 2 before the Boise worksheet in this case. I use that drag and drop method most of the time when I simply want to rearrange the order of worksheets. But what if I actually want to make a copy of a worksheet? For example, we have Boise, Boston, Denver, and Seattle. But what if we wanted to create a summary worksheet that eventually is going to summarize all of the data from the other 4 worksheets? We know that the labels are going to be the same. The calculations will not. But I don't want to have to retype anything. In this case, we can make a complete copy by right-clicking on a worksheet tab and choosing Move or Copy. This will display a window that lets you both move a worksheet or to copy it. Now, as I said, I don't use this technique to physically rearrange worksheets, but I would use it if I wanted to move a worksheet to a completely different file. When you have multiple files open, you can choose the appropriate destination file from the To Book dropdown and then designate where you want it to go. That's a really useful tool. In this case, we want to create a copy, so the most important step, perhaps, is to make sure that we check the box at the bottom that says Create a Copy. Otherwise, we'll simply move it. What we're going to do is create a copy that will eventually become our summary worksheet, and we want that to be placed before the Boise worksheet. So we'll select Boise, make sure Create a Copy is selected, click or tap OK, and we can see that a new worksheet based on the Boise worksheet has been created. Of course, what we want to do now is to rename. Yes, there are many ways that we can do this, just like we've been talking about with inserting and moving. I'm going to go ahead and right-click and simply choose Rename. This puts the tab into edit mode. This is a lot like just renaming a file or a folder in My Computer or Windows Explorer. Simply put it into edit mode and make whatever changes are necessary. In this case, we'll type Summary and press Enter to set the name. I wasn't specifically counting the number of clicks, but I think with about 6 or 7 clicks, we were able to completely copy a worksheet and rename it, putting it into the position that we wanted in the current workbook. That's pretty good. I think that naming worksheets, or maybe I should say renaming worksheets, is really an important step. In Excel 2002, though, they introduced another feature that allows us to more easily identify worksheets by color coding them. Again, all we're going to do here is a very simple two-step process. It involves a right click. Let's say that we want our summary sheet to stand out. If we give it a right click, we can move over Tab Color and then choose from a rainbow of possible colors. Just to make this one stand out nice and bright, we'll go ahead and choose orange. What you will notice is that when the worksheet is not selected, the entire tab becomes filled with the worksheet color. When it is the active worksheet, it actually moves down and is just kind of a shadow at the bottom of the tab itself, becoming a little bit more subtle. Colors, like everything else, can be used as you see appropriate. For example, you could color all of your worksheets that contain charts one color, or all of the worksheets for locations in a particular color. Maybe everything for one region is in blue and another region is in yellow. The possibilities really are endless, and as long as they make sense to you, the choice is yours. I do want to remind you that even though I've been doing all of these things by right-clicking on the worksheet tabs themselves, there are different ways to accomplish them, one of which is using the Home tab, moving over to the Cells group, and in this case, choosing the Format option. There are a lot of things that we haven't used here, but if you move down, you'll see a category called Organize Sheets. Here, you can rename, move or copy, and work with tab color. We'll just press Escape to get out of that option. While all of these things are very exciting and actually go a long way to making your worksheets and your workbooks more functional and more intuitive, please don't forget to do the cleanup. Remember what I said, if you're not using a worksheet, get rid of it. In this case, we have a couple of different sheets that we really aren't using. The first one is actually Sheet 2. This is the one that we inserted a few minutes ago by using the Insert Sheet option. Notice that it is blank. It doesn't have any data on it. So if we right-click on its tab and choose Delete, it says you can't undo deleting sheets and you might be removing some data. We'll go ahead and click or tap Delete to say, yes, that's fine. Sheet 2 goes away. Likewise, we also had Sheet 1 that just had some basic data that I used to show you the actual physical size of worksheets. We don't need this anymore either, so again, we'll right-click and delete and confirm the deletion. Now we have exactly the number of worksheets that we want. They're renamed, one of them is color-coded, and they're in the appropriate order. Now we're in good shape to get to work. But before we do, one last thing. For many of us, we tend to create the same types of workbook files week after week, month after month, or year after year. If this is the case, then we don't have to spend any time inserting or deleting worksheets manually every time we create a new file, if we know that a majority of the time our files will have the same number of worksheets. If we work in accounting, for example, we might know that we always need a total of 13 worksheets, one each for January through December, and the 13th, which is a summary sheet. Likewise, if we work in sales or HR or IT and know we will always need to create a worksheet for each department or location, we can set that as the default. And it's very easy. We used to do this by going to Tools, Options. In the later versions of Excel, it's actually found under the File tab, almost all the way down to the bottom where it says Options. When the Options window appears, we want to make sure that the general category is selected, and about halfway down, we'll see Defaults when creating new workbooks. This includes the default font that we want, as well as how many worksheets we want to include. If we work in accounting and want those 13 sheets, this would be the place to type 13. Click or tap OK at the bottom, and just to test it out, let's press Ctrl-N to create a new workbook. You can plainly see at the bottom of our screen, we have a total of 13 worksheets. So the new setting is in place and will save us that extra time and energy every time we create those workbooks. Depending on which version of Excel you're currently using, there may be slight variations in the tools available to you. The worksheet and ribbon features we've just worked through are the ones that are most important when working with multiple worksheets and external data. I realize that if you worked in Excel, and especially if you had formal training in the latest versions, that some of this may have been a review. But for many, even though you've worked in Excel, These things have never been pointed out, especially if you learned on your own. So I wanted to point them out as part of our kind of warm-up, if you will. None of them are really required, but when utilized, they simplify our work and help clarify the data, both of which are important as you expand the physical areas your data encompasses, as well as expanding your Excel skills.